It's important to realize that every single movie clip does have its own timeline, and it's up to you whether you want to use it or not. Let's go back out to scene 1 again, and let's see what we can do with our football. Now, I'm just going to back up our main timeline here so our football's back in play. Now we can see our football has its path set up in here, and we can also see that our football is a movie clip. Well, let's just double click on it. And there we can see we're editing the football movie clip, and here we can see the football timeline. This has already been set up to have 3 different layers of objects, and you can see it's just occupying frame 1, so we're not really using the timeline at this point. But let's see if we can add a little animation just to add a little bit more realism to our project. If the football was sailing through here, it might also look nice if it was spinning around in a nice spiral. Now that would mean the laces would kind of fly around, but it would also mean that the highlight on the football would kind of stay stationary. Well, we've already got our laces in a separate layer by themselves, so why don't we go ahead and animate those. Inside of this movie clip timeline, we work just like any other, so I'm going to click on the laces here and see what we've got to work with. That entire object, including all the laces and the seam on the football itself, is already a movie clip, so it's actually ready to go. We can select that layer and go up to Insert, choose Motion Tween, or if you like the right-click menu, we can right-click on the laces and choose Create Motion Tween there, and you can see we've got a normal Motion Tween object just like we had out in the Scene 1 timeline. Now we need to make sure that our football doesn't disappear, or the stripes, so I'm just going to select that same frame here, and I'll shift select the one below it, and I'll use my F5 keyboard shortcut to insert frames. Then we've got our football dropped into here. Now let's set up our basic animation. I just want the laces to kind of start up here and travel across the face of the football and off the other side so that they look like they're going around back and circling. Now I'm going to go back to my first frame position, and I'm just going to grab the laces object here, and I'm just going to move it up so it's just kind of hanging right up off the top of the ball. Then I'm going to go about halfway into the animation and grab the laces again and move them to the other side of the ball. Now obviously this is not going to be a perfect animation because we have the laces kind of curved here, and they're not going to be completely 3D. But at least at this point, I've got the laces kind of flying across the face of the ball there. What I'll do to obscure that a little bit and make the object look a little bit more natural is let's take that movie clip. I'm going to click on the laces, and as usual that gets us access to all the movie clip properties over here. Let me close up a couple of these panels because what I'm interested in is the filters, and down here we'll add a new filter, and I'll just put in a blur. Now we're still getting the effect of the laces, but they're a little fuzzy, and it probably won't be quite so noticeable that they are curved in one direction. We can adjust the blur properties over here, and just to make it even more realistic, what I'm going to do is click on the chain link icon. Now that disconnects these two properties so that we can change them independently, and for the side to side X blur, I'm going to set that to 0, and now all of our blur will be in up and down direction. So it kind of pulls those laces out a little bit. Since we've added this blur on frame 1 of our tween and not changed it at all, the blur should kind of stay there the whole time as the laces travel across the front. And I've purposefully made the laces only half the distance of this animation, and we'll have this pause because of course in real life the laces would be rolling up the back. Now we need to make sure that our user can't see the laces when they're not on top of the ball. Well, that makes sense. We'd only have laces traveling across the ball, not hanging outside of it like we have right now. But we can fix that with a mask. Now we saw how to do that in our last chapter, so it should be pretty easy. We just need something the shape of the football itself. So I'm just going to pick the football right from the background layer. Let's make a copy of it. I'll press Command C or Control C on the PC for a normal copy. Let's go and make a new layer for our mask. I'll name that layer Football Mask. And of course we want to use Paste in Place to put it right back where it was. As you can see, our new layer is now covering up the laces and the ball, but all we need to do is set it up as a mask layer. And now remember our shortcut for that. If you right-click on the layer, and if you don't have a right-click, you can just hold down the Control key while you left-click. You can choose Mask. Now that sets up the mask and the layer right underneath it, and it conveniently locks both layers so we can immediately see the effect of the mask. Now let's take a look at how the animation is going to run. We can see that the laces get clipped off right at the edge and at the bottom edge as well. It looks like I need to move my laces just a little bit further because they hang out on the bottom there. So that's pretty easy. We'll just unlock the laces layer and the mask layer, and I'll just hide the mask for a moment. And we can go to our keyframe that signals the end of the animation and just pull those laces out just a little bit more so that we don't see them on the edge of the mask. We can preview it again just by locking both layers and revealing the mask. And now we can see that the laces go off the bottom quite nicely. Now this animation that we're creating is actually designed to loop. And if I remember right, my Scene 1 timeline has about 150 in it. So we should get at least 4 or 5 loops or passes of the laces rolling through here as our football sails through the goal.